Welcome back to Cask and Point. Today is going to be a great day because we're going to be trying one of the most infamous whiskeys in the entire bourbon community, Willett Purple Tops. So Willett Purple Tops have a long and famed history, but it all started in 2006 when Willett came up with a crazy proposition. They said, what if we went and we paid thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to certain big distilleries, Haven Hill, Bernheim, MGP, and we convinced them to sell us their best barrels, their oldest stock, 15 years old, 20 years old, 25-year-old whiskey. But we got the best barrels, and we spend all that money, but we'll then go on and charge a lot of money for our bottles, but we'll put them in this cool fancy bottle, we'll call it Willett Family Estate, and people will know it to be top tier whiskey, and they'll pay that money because the whiskey is just that good. It turns out this crazy proposition worked wonders, put Willett on the map, and Willett-sourced whiskeys are still known today as some of the greatest whiskeys of all time, such as Red Hook Rye, which goes for about $20,000, such as Doug's Green Ink or Doug's Black Ink, both also ryes that go for about $15,000, and a lot of amazing bourbon, such as the Pack Edge 28 year that goes for about 40 grand if you could ever find it. So really, some incredible and amazing whiskeys of the past. But what happened? Well, in 2012, Willett started making their own whiskey, and it wouldn't be until many years later that we'd see that effect on Willett Purple Tops. But nowadays, Willett Purple Tops are released at 9, 10, and 11 years old, and they're pretty much almost exclusively just Willett juice, because now that they've been distilling for that long, they have those barrels. And they definitely do some barrel selection. They definitely put a lot of their worst whiskey into a lot of their products like Noah's Mill, or their younger Willett Purple Tops and stuff like that. And so by the time it's getting to 9, 10, 11 years old, if it is getting the purple top bottle on it, it is usually going to be very solid, but many say it's not anywhere close to how great they once were. So we're going to try some today, we're going to have some fun, we're going to see if they are worth it, and in 2025, if it's worth buying this bottle anymore. That was once known to be one of the greatest unicorns in the entire market, but it's today seen as a bottle by the top whiskey enthusiast as something that's kind of just a sad remnants of a great past. So we're going to see, we're going to try 2 different mash bills here today. Now, Willett has 6 different mash bills. The weeded mash bill is pretty much exclusively used for their 8-year purple top, and that has its own funky bottle, and most people say that's really bad, and I'll do a review on it one day. But there are really 3 main purple top mash bills: the original mash bill, the high corn mash bill, and the high rye mash bill, and then there are 2 ryes, the low rye and the high rye. Today we're going to be doing 2 purple tops. We're going to do OG, and we're going to do high rye. So OG here is barrel number 4125. It's 9 years, it's 128.6 proof. It is the bottle that I have right here. I just happen to also have a sample of it, so I figured, why crack the bottle right now when I have the sample? Let me use the sample, and then we'll open the bottle here sometime soon. But let's get right into it. On the nose here, there's a lot of perfumey oak, caramel, definitely some rye spice into some baking spice, definitely some nutmeg, some cloves, some cinnamon. Honestly, it does smell really good, but there's a lot of perfumey oak on this. Let's try it. So the palate is interesting. So it begins with the caramel and the baking spice, and then it gets into the really strong perfumey oak. And then towards the late palate right now, I'm getting a lot of that nutmeg, the cinnamon, pepper, kind of a lot of the stuff that I would expect from the rye that's in that mash bill. So it's good, but it didn't blow me away. Now, a fun part about this video is that I've actually tried both of these whiskeys, and I tried them both back in March. And so it's been about 10 months since I've tried these whiskeys, and I tried these exact barrels of whiskey back then, and I strongly preferred the OG mash bill. So we're going to see if that's still the case today. It's been a long time. My palate has tried many whiskeys since then. And if I'm being honest, this definitely smells and tastes a lot more tame than I remember it being. And it's definitely leaning a lot more to that perfumey oak, which I'm just not as big of a fan of as that caramel and that nutmeg and that baking spice. Let's take a second sip here. It's good. The finish is probably medium length here, but I'm not impressed. It feels weird to say these kinds of things about a bottle of whiskey that's probably going to rate into the low to mid 8s, which is a great bottle of whiskey, but I'm looking at this through a lens of this is $300 MSRP, and the 11 years upwards, $400 MSRP, and the secondary honored is even more than that. The secondary honored on a 9 years probably about $400, $450, and at 11 years you're looking at $500, maybe even $550. And so this is a very expensive bottle of whiskey. And for that kind of money, I need to be blown away. I need to get really an absolutely incredible bottle that is almost like a wedding day pour to spend that kind of money on. And so I'm not entirely sold that it's worth it. Let's switch over to the high rye. Let's see if it's any better. So let's see this high rye here. So people typically like the high rye a lot more. High rye is the most popular of the three mash bills. It would go high rye the most popular, and then OG mash bill, and then high corn. And then that's partially due to the rarity. High rye is much rarer to come by, but people also think it's just better. People think it tastes better. It's just a better bottle of whiskey. And I will note here, which is interesting, but the red fruit on this is something I wasn't really getting on the OG. I mean, there's the faintest bit of cherry on the OG mash bill, whereas on this high rye, the cherry is much more prominent. The perfume oak is definitely still there, but it's much more tame. And I'm getting a lot more caramel, a lot more cinnamon, a lot more nutmeg, a lot more from the rye whiskey, which is what we would expect. And that smells really good. Let's try it. Wow, that's interesting. I liked it a lot more than I once did. That is really interesting. On the first sip, it's better than the original mash bill. It's definitely getting a lot closer to worth its MSRP. I'm debating if it's worth it on its secondary. I mean, its secondary is a little bit more expensive than the original mash bill. And I'm not blown away by it. And we have a very fair comparison here. So we're looking at bottle 4125, 9-year, 128.6 proof on the first sample here. On the second sample here, we have 3189, 129.8 proof, and 9 years. I think that's all the information. I'll put this all on your screen, or it's probably already been on your screen, but it is very good here. This is interesting. This is very interesting. It smells better. I think the finish is slightly longer. And, I mean, we're at the same proof, we're at the same age. Well, I don't really think we could have compared these any better than really how the mash bills are going to stack up against each other. This is good. This is a sample from a good buddy of mine named Pardosa Man, who actually sent me this probably 3 or 4 months ago now. I've only finally gotten around to it, but thank you for sending it to me. Wow, this is really good. Let's take a second sip. Yeah, there's a lot more cherry on that one. And it's definitely still giving me the perfumey oak. It's definitely still giving me that nutmeg, the cloves, the cinnamon. Definitely leaning into pepper towards the end of it. It's good. I'm leaning towards this being worth its MSRP. I don't think it's worth its secondary. And I think that's really the question here. Because I know that these have become much easier to get at MSRP. I mean, this bottle is actually a fun story where I bought one of this bottle. I had seen it just sitting on the shelf for about 2 weeks in my local liquor store. So I bought it, and then I bought one, I tried it, I said, this is amazing, and then I went back and I cleaned them out. They had 7 left, I bought all 7, I ended up sending a couple to friends, but for the most part, I kept them, I enjoyed them with friends. I only have this one bottle left of it, but it was kind of odd to just see that many, and that many sitting there for that long at $300 at 9 years. So, I don't know if that's standard for most people, if they're seeing them sitting at MSRP for that long in their parts of the country. I don't really know why this happened, and this was, back in March, maybe it was in April. So it's been a while, and I haven't seen a single Purple Top since, and it was only in that one store. But I'm glad I got the bottle. I think at $300, this high rye is worth it. I think if you could find it for that, if you can either, through a liquor store connection, through getting lucky, if you could find it for that, I think it's worth it. I think the OG Mashbill is honestly not worth it. I'm glad I have this bottle because it's the only Willett Purple Top I have, and I'm definitely going to drink the heck out of it one day. But the perfumey oak on it is just really overpowering. The lavender, there are all these herbal notes on it, these, rose petals and all this stuff on it that I don't mind, but I just don't love. I think on the OG Mash here, I'm going to give this an 8.4. I think it's good. I think it's very good. But I think it's just missing what I would hope I would get out of a $300 bottle where the finish isn't long enough. You know what? I might even drop to an 8. I'm going to drop to an 8.3. I'm just not enjoying this as much as I once did. And I did try this, again, probably about 9 months ago, and I loved it. So, I mean, palate preferences change over time. It's been a long time. I've tried a lot of whiskey since then. But wow, it's a little bit disappointing, honestly. Yeah, I'm going to go with an 8.3 on this one. I think it's good. I think it's going to beat a lot of bottles on the market. But I don't really think anybody should feel bad for not really having one of these on the shelf for the OG. For the high corn, it's a lot better. Like, it's not actually that close. And it's funny because I thought that this whiskey was just worse than the OG Mashbill when I tried them the first time. But this is also the fun of trying whiskeys. You know, I don't get to try many whiskeys a second time, a third time, and a fourth time after that many months. But, you know, I will definitely be having this experience a lot more in the future. That's really good. I'm going to rate that an 8.6. I really like the cherry on it. I really like the caramel. I think this is worth $300. I don't think it's worth $500. I don't think it's worth $450. I think if a store is marking it up to that, I would pass. But I think if you can get a 9-year for $300, I will try an 11-year at some point. We'll see if it's any better. And actually, I do have a lot of Willett samples kind of just laying around. So in my next Willett video, let me know down below in the comments if you guys want to see me blind all 3 of those mash bills, all at hazmat, because I have samples of all of them at hazmat. Or if you would like to see me compare some of the legendary sourced whiskeys of the past, since I do have a couple of those as well. A lot of Willett samples. I haven't done a Willett video yet. I finally got around to doing one. Glad I did it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Overall, the conclusion is, I think High Rye is worth it. I think overall, you're not really missing that much. And I think if you can try a bottle before you buy it, you have to do that with Willett's, because there's a lot of risk involved at a single barrel that's costing that much money. But overall, you're not really missing all that much if you're not getting that many Willett Purple Tops. But the people that are still into them, they definitely know exactly what to be buying. So this is one man's opinion, and I'm sure there's still a lot of good Willett Purple Tops out there. But the 2 we tried today, I thought the OG was okay. I thought the High Rye was good. It's really good. Still didn't absolutely blow my mind, but I'm sure there'll be some other that will one day. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. I'll catch you all in the next one.